Hi, everyone. It's me, Whimsy. Thanks for joining us. First off, I just want to give gratitude to everybody who has donated money to the GoFundMe for my older sister's medical care. We did do a fundraiser, and people have been very generous. So I just wanted to give gratitude to that before we get started. Today, I'm just really, I can't tell you how excited I am. And I'm not just saying that. I've been dreaming for a very long time, maybe a couple of years now, about this interview. And now tonight's the night. And I just feel like, oh my God, tonight's the night, okay, this is my friend. He is a licensed naturopathic physician's assistant, but more than that, he is a trance medium and a brilliant artist to the stars. And so thank you, Chuck, for being here and doing this.
Well, thank you. I'm just overwhelmed by your kind words.
I met you. I did not know when I first met you. We worked together doing nutritional consults, right?
Yes. What was that, about 4 years ago? 5 years ago.
And wow, talk about karma. You and I have really built quite a connection, haven't we?
Oh, yes, we have. It was almost instantaneous right from the beginning. You've always been an angel in my life.
Oh, sweetheart, thank you.
Well, you have. I mean, if you recall, we did the hair analysis test, and it showed that I had a dormant virus in my body, and we couldn't figure out what it was. 10 days later, I had my first ever outbreak of shingles right here on my upper temple. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't painful, so I just assumed it was a rash, but it traveled into my eye, came within like a fraction of a millimeter of hitting my optic nerve. You were the one who recognized what it was, and you implored me to leave work and go straight to the emergency room, which is something I wouldn't have done had it not been for you. So you literally saved my eyesight.
Wow.
That was just the start of so many things you have done for me. When we were training so I could get my NDA license, we became very close. You gave so much of your personal time and attention to me, and you made it so easy, something that was so daunting and overwhelming. You just said, it's okay. It's okay. Learning is supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to get it all at once. It's going to take probably until the fourth attempt before you learn this. It's okay. So let's just have fun and let's just learn together. And, what can I say?
And then I found out that you and I are both trance mediums, and I was like, oh my God, he's part of my tribe.
Well, it's something that I don't
about the world we live in. And I was channeling Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and it was driving. Yes. Remember that? And then the shooter in that I channeled. Remember that? And I had no one to talk to, and I would do this remote viewings, and it would be horrible. And I'd be like, well, Meghan, remember when Harry and Meghan? I was going and giving you the lowdown on their relationship.
Yes, you were. And I was saying, well, in the meantime, let me tell you what Lucille Ball is up to and Marilyn Monroe.
Yes. So people who don't know Chuck, let me tell you a little bit about him. Like I said, he's a trance medium. He's also a trained actor. And I think that
Yes.
you have a degree in art. Where did you get your art degree?
I got my art degree from Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yes.
And then you trained as an actor as well, didn't you?
I did many years later after I came to Los Angeles. I studied for a number of years, particularly with Dee Wallace. Most people know her. She played the mother in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And Dee, in addition to being a wonderful actress, is a very spiritual woman. Many times our acting classes were just as much about spirituality and opening ourselves up to channel, because much of her acting technique that she taught us was based upon just channeling in the moment, connecting with your partner, letting the energy flow through us, connect, have a dance of energy.
Right. So that's it's like remote viewing. It's like being an agent.
Very much so.
Yeah,
very much.
I wanted to ask actors, is what you do similar to my work? And I guess what you're saying is yes.
Well, I feel it is. Well, I feel all of the arts are connected in a similar way, because I think any artist, whether you be a writer, you be an actor, you be a dancer, musician, I think any of us can say that we honestly channel. It's just a natural part of what we do. You get out of your head. And that's one of the things that Dee emphasized in acting class. Guys, just get out of your heads. You don't have to do all this preparation and work. Just know your lines and connect with your partner and be in the moment and channel. And I found that that applied to my writing, that applied to my artwork, to being able to listen to these inner guides, these voices. It's all connected. It's like there's a golden thread that goes through the whole thing. And I was going to say also, one of the things Dee taught us was how to read energy from people, to be able to look into people's eyes and just know everything there is, because everything is right there, present in the eyes. You can see that. And I apply that when I do my portraits. When I do my portraits, I can connect with a photograph. I can connect with a subject. I can look into the eyes and know what that person is thinking. I can tell what that person's feeling. I can feel their history. And from there, I get out of my head and I just start putting that onto the paper or onto the canvas.
Wow.
And that's what I do with, I guess, what we call psychic medium.
Yeah.
Work, even though I've never really called it anything.
Well, I'm not an artist. I'm not an actor. So it makes me feel good, though, that I can connect to people who do have those abilities to at least, wow, they do.
We all have them.
To what I do.
You know, a book that was very helpful for me was written by Sonia Choquette, Ask Your Guides.
Oh,
and she explained in that book that anybody can do this. This is not some exclusive gift. We all have the ability. We have to be quiet. We have to listen. We have to get out of our own way, and also recognize that when you're feeling the energy from a soul, from a spirit, it's subtle. You know, I think a lot of us have it in our heads that it has to be like, ta-da! You know, like a band of a choir of angels singing and something dramatic, like a Hollywood movie. No, it's very subtle, extremely subtle. You have to just listen, and it takes practice, but you begin to recognize the differences in the energies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is one of the first questions I really wanted to ask you. I'm starting to know, when did you first realize that you were a medium? Who was the first spirit that connected with you? Of all of the James Dean, the first person that actually
James Dean was very early.
Can you tell me a little bit about how he connected with you? What did you freak out? Did you have a panic? Like, what happened? How did that
well, I was going to say it was actually Lucille Ball. She was the first. But I'll go to James Dean.
I want to do a whole interview on your relationship with Lucille Ball, because Lucille Ball is kind of like one of your spirit guides, isn't she?
Oh, very much so.
I mean, literally, she hangs out in your living room. I mean, she inside scoop on the family and all kinds of things.
Well, that's a whole other topic, I guess we can talk about. But as far as James Dean goes, this was unexpected. I think this was 1990 or so. I had been given for Christmas a box set of his movies. It was the 35th anniversary of his death. So it was, you know, he only made 3 feature films that he starred in. So it was a box set of his 3 movies. And up until that point, I had always thought of James Dean for the T-shirts, the posters, the image. Oh, I thought, here was a pretty boy actor from the 50s. I honestly had no idea what to expect. And the first movie I watched was East of Eden. It was electrifying. If you've ever seen the movie, I mean, his performance, for me, was literally breathtaking. I had chills. The hair was standing up on my arms. I was sitting on the edge of my seat. I was crying. It was one of the most beautiful and moving performances I had ever seen in my life. I had no idea what an actor this young man was. No idea. So maybe it was a good thing that I approached it that way, not knowing anything about him. It was like a blank canvas or a clean palette, so to speak. So I was just electrified by this movie. I went to bed, and it was during the middle of the night he came to me in a dream.
Oh,
And
wow.
we've all had those dreams
Yes,
that
that's how
so
and also Queen Elizabeth.
real. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but I'm saying I usually they make first contact with me through the dream if I'm receptive.
Yeah,
Mary
because
did.
I mean, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but I think it's because we're in that, is it the alpha state?
Yes.
So we're more receptive to receiving. Well, this was one of those dreams. It was unbelievably real. I mean, just very much in the moment. It was very much in real time. And he came to me. And he was just like this excited kid, like, hey, Jack, come on. I want to see where you grew up. Take me to your hometown. I said, really? You want to see that? Yeah, come on, let's go. And in the dream, it was in real time. So it was like, I'm guessing like 3:30 in the morning. It was dark. It was morning. And I guess maybe I went out of my body or something, but we were back in my hometown in Virginia, 3,000 miles away. And we were holding hands. You know, our arms were extended out like this, and we were holding hands, and we were about 3 feet off the ground, and we were floating through my town. And I was showing them, okay, there's my high school. This is downtown. That's the house I grew up in. And he was just very interested. And I later learned that was one of the things about James Dean. He was very inquisitive. He loved to learn about other people and their lives and what made them tick. So it fit the pattern. But in the dream, he was just very excited, very enthusiastic. And then we came back and he said, okay, bye. Thanks for showing it to me. And I bolted awake, just bolted awake and jumped up like shaking. Have you ever had one of those dreams where you're just shaking?
Wow.
It was like lightning.
So what must have happened was you were so emotionally connected to him that
Yeah.
he connected to you, and then he wanted to hang out a little bit. And he was like,
That's
okay.
exactly what I think happened. He picked up on the energy. He picked up on the love. I think he picked up on my sincere enthusiasm.
Right.
Because I wasn't approaching it James Dean, the big star, the big legend. I was just very moved by his performance, and his soul was on the screen. And I will add, I later learned, in fact, I learned this only a couple of weeks ago when I was in Fairmount, Indiana, and I spent time with his cousin Marcus Winslow on the family farm where James Dean grew up. They were raised together as brothers. I was there at the house on the property. And Marcus said to me, if you want to know who James Dean was, well, he called him Jim. Everybody called him Jimmy. You want to know who Jimmy was? All you have to do is watch East of Eden. That was him. He was giving a beautiful performance, but that was him. He was basically playing himself. He said that's the closest of any of his movies. So obviously when I watched the film, I connected with him on a very strong soul level. And that dream was so intense. Like I said, it was like lightning going through me. It woke me up. And I remember even seeing my clock. I guess it was like, this is like 30 years ago. It was like 3:30 in the morning. And it was even hard to get back to sleep. It was so intense. And then as the days went on, I began to feel him. Because I guess the best way to describe it, you know how you have your back turned and you know somebody is in the room with you, you know their energy, you know that. Well, I could just feel his energy. The dream gave me the ability to discern his energy, to know what it felt like. So I knew when he was with me. And then he began to, I would ask him, can you give me a sign that you're here in the room? Am I imagining this, or are you here? He would always direct my eye to something crimson red. You know, the jacket, the Rebel Without a Cause jacket? My eye would always go to something crimson red, the color of his red jacket. And that was his little signal, his way of saying, I'm here.
Oh, wow. And
yeah.
Is now the painting in the back here, is that yours?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So
this is actually a smaller version of the 30 by 40 inch painting that now hangs in the Rebel Lodge in Fairmount, Indiana, his hometown.
Yes.
It's a massive painting. I did this one just as a keepsake. Because of all the paintings I did for the Rebel Lodge, that was my favorite. And I really hated to let that one go. But I knew I was going to do more good there than it was here in my living room.
Okay, so over the years, obviously, James Dean has guided you and been kind of a spirit guide for you, right?
I think so. He comes and goes. there are periods where I don't hear from him for a long, long time, and then out of nowhere he appears again.
Now you felt so connected to him, you have a tattoo of James Dean. Can you show that to the audience?
Does this show up?
That
here?
is the signature, and so
can you see it? That's his signature.
We can. So basically, he took you and he said, "That's my boy," right? So
I don't know about that, but you know where this came from. I saw a guy with a Steve McQueen autograph tattooed on his arm. I thought, that is so cool. I want to do that too. And I thought, now who would I want to put on me? And I thought, James Dean would be kind of fun because I feel such a connection with him. So I found a picture of a bank check. I wanted to make sure I got an authentic signature. I took that to the Shamrock on the Sunset Strip. That's where a lot of the movie stars go to get their tattoos. And I took that there, and he made a stencil from it. And from there, he very carefully went over it and just perfectly replicated the signature. Because I said, I want this to look like Jimmy actually signed my arm. And he did it.
Wow. Now, when did you actually start painting James Dean? Like, I know you have so many paintings.
That is a good question. I've got to think on that. I would imagine in the early 90s, because I would say in the early 90s, I did a few pieces, but I never really pursued doing portraits of him so much. It was mainly because at the time I was pursuing acting more. That's what interested me, right. Getting acting advice from him. And mostly what I would get from him was just be yourself. Just be in your spirit, be in your soul. And don't be dependent on me. Don't be dependent on anybody. Listen to what's in here, to you. Don't imitate me. Don't imitate anyone. So I that's what I was kind of hearing.
He wanted you to be authentic.
He wanted to be authentic to myself. But at the same time, I always felt like there was that support system there. Like he was there, like, okay, if you need a little shot of confidence, a little reassurance, I'm here for you. But in that respect, he more and more just would leave me alone. Kind of like saying, you don't need me, you don't need anybody. You just need you.
Wow.
So I even see that as very good advice, very wise advice.
Yeah.
One of the things with these spirits, like James Dean, one of the ways I know that it's positive, it's not negative, is the very fact that, like Jimmy would say something like that. He would say, don't get dependent on me. Don't, please, I'm just here to guide you. I'm here to assist you. But that's it. That's it.
Wow, that's a very healthy attitude.
I thought so too. In fact, I do think so. It's healthy.
All right, so my next question, I'm seeing the sketches and I'm showing the audience the sketches.
Okay.
I love that, the pictures you've done. Did you start, were the sketches of James Dean that we're looking at right now, were these sketches the first works you did? Were the sketches, is that correct?
No, these were all done. I started on them in mid-2019, and they were done until the spring of 2020. And I guess we should tell the story about that, about the Rebel Lodge, because that's what I started doing.
Well, yeah, like you connect. How did James Dean's family find you? Because you became the official artist for the lodge. Like, how did this happen to you?
Well, I didn't become the official artist, but I became the official Rebel Lodge.
The artist for the lodge, yes.
Yeah, okay. I wish I were the official artist for the James Dean estate, but I think there's competition
for the lodge, which is owned by his cousin, right?
No, it's owned by a wonderful man named Jerry Traub.
Oh.
Jerry Traub, who did a beautiful job with this. He loves James Dean as much as I do. And he was in Fairmount for the very first time in 2018, became so captivated with the town, he saw a little building that was for sale, that was on East Washington Street. You know, the famous photograph of James Dean walking through his hometown taken by Dennis Stock. It's about 50 to 75 feet from there, where he stood. Yeah. But he was so captivated, he bought the building and decided to turn it into an Airbnb. So he had to take this building and I basically strip it down to the studs and redo it.
Wow.
But he put so much love and so much passion into this. He was like me, just driven by passion. And I think Jimmy was guiding him too, frankly.
Right.
I really do. But it all began when I did a drawing of James Dean from Giant, the one of him in the cowboy hat. I don't know if you've shown that picture yet or not.
Yeah.
I put it on the Facebook page for Turner Classic Movies, just for the fun of it. Mm-hmm. Well, a friend of Jerry's saw it and contacted Jerry and said, "You've got to see this." And he forwarded the picture to him. Jerry contacted me later that day by Facebook Messenger and said, "Would you be interested in maybe doing some artwork for my Airbnb?" And do you know, I almost turned him down. I almost turned him down. The reason being, it wasn't I wasn't interested. It was just because I was working my full-time job at the time. I didn't have a lot of free time to do artwork. I didn't have a lot of energy for it. And I knew this was going to be a big thing. And I was also thinking, that's all the way in Fairmount, Indiana. I'm here in LA. I mean, I can't travel back and forth and do this. How are we going to, what are the logistics? Well, 2 hours later, I quickly came to my senses. Like, duh, Chuck, come on. Here's your chance to have your artwork, your original artwork, in Jimmy Dean's hometown, 50 feet or so from where he was standing in that photograph.
Yeah.
And it just hit me with an electricity similar to what I had in that dream nearly 30 years before. It was like Jimmy was even saying, "Come on, I made this happen for you. Come on. Are you idiot? Come on, do this." I really felt like Jimmy was giving me a gift, like saying, yes, "Okay, you need to get back into your art. You need to launch your art career. It's time." And I hope this doesn't sound audacious to your listeners, but I could just feel him saying, "Let me help you. Let me do this. Here's a chance." And so I just began drawing. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. But I said to Jerry, I want these pieces to be as close to perfect as I can get. I want them just right. I'm just going to start doing sketches and see what you think. I'm going to start playing with this. I'm going to just let the energy start flowing through me and see what comes up. So the drawings that you're showing are the byproduct of that. Just me channeling and feeling and going into my heart, because the whole point of this project was love. You know, I wasn't thinking about making money. I wasn't thinking about any fame or recognition. I came from a heartfelt place. I want to do this for Jimmy. I love him. I want to put this in his hometown. And I want something that if he were to walk down East Washington Street again, he'd go, yeah, you did me proud. I wanted to please him. So it was like a Valentine. It was a gift of love, which, as you and I both know, that's the best place to be when you're making art, to come from love. And that's the best place to channel is from a place of love, from a heart center. And that's where I was when I did this art. It was from a heart center.
Wow.
That's incredible. I think it's incredible too.
Will you come back again?
Of course I will. As many times as you want.
I have to ask before we close, how many celebrities have come to you and asked you to paint for them? I know that you have a relationship with James Dean, but there are others that have come.
Gosh, that's a tough one to answer because
I want you to come back and talk about your relationship with Lucille.
Okay. Ball. I mean, well, Lucy is a big one. Lucy is a very big one. But there's been Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, you said that Marilyn Monroe is kind of an introvert. She doesn't really like to come out very often.
No, it's not I can't use the word introvert to describe her because she was so charismatic and so much about being out there. But what I picked up on her was more of a sense of street smarts. Like she wasn't the helpless little victim that the biographies like to make her out to be. I very much get the vibe this was somebody who was very aware of who she was. She knew how the business worked. She knew how tough it was, and she was just as tough right back. That's what I mean by street smarts. That's the vibe I get from her. And I honestly haven't felt her for a while, but I remember once she came to me and she was saying, if you want to be felt, you really want your presence to be felt. She said, this is a trick I used to do. I used to imagine golden rings of energy just spinning around me and then going outward. And I would just be very present in myself and let that golden energy go outward. That's just what I heard, for whatever that's worth. But I thought it made a lot of sense, because if you watch her movies, I think you feel that golden energy coming out of a very present state within her.
Wow.
That came, but I know we need to close, but I've done so many celebrity portraits, and I have to say almost any portrait I do, I feel some kind of soul connection with that person.
I don't think you would be able, being a medium, do you think you would be able to paint someone if you didn't lock on and make?
Well, I could do it. I'm a trained artist. If I dare say, I'm a decent artist, but I think to have that little something extra, that look in the eyes, that personality, that energy that jumps off the paper, jumps off the canvas, that comes from the energy of that individual. And I feel strongly that they channel through me, and that goes on to the paper or the canvas. That's what I was asking Jimmy when I was doing those paintings for Fairmount. I would always say, Jimmy, what do you want to tell?
You just had an orb fly by.
Did I?
Yes.
Really?
Or the audience.
I'll have to watch the replay of this. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Somebody flew by. I just saw somebody.
Somebody flew by. I don't know. I lost my train of thought when you said that. I was so in the flow. Can you get me back on track? What was I saying?
Just about how you're a trained artist and you could do it, but it's not the same as when you actually have a soul.
Oh, yes, that's it. Well, yeah, of course. Forgive me, everybody. What I was saying is I would say to Jimmy, this is your art. This is for you. So this is going to hang in your hometown. It's going to be visible to all the tourists, all the visitors. What do you want to say? And I don't know entirely what he wanted to say, but I just said, Jimmy, that can be your little secret. I just want you to channel it through me onto the canvases, and we're going to put it there. So I hope I did my job and succeeded.
Obviously, you did your job.
I hope I did.
I'm very famous from this. I have a couple quick questions before we close. If people would like to see your channeled celebrity art, I know that people are very passionate about what you're doing. Do you have a website or something?
Oh, yes, I do. I worked very hard on this. This was one of the gifts of the pandemic. I lost my job to the pandemic last year. So I had I decided to make the most of it.
So you're still a physician's assistant.
Yes. I just meant my 9-to-5 job that was paying a lot of the bills. I took this time to build up my portfolio and just to get myself back into practice again, because I was rusty. I hadn't done work for a long time. So I built up my portfolio, and I finished the projects for Fairmount, and then I put together the website that I have wanted to do for years. It took me about 4 months to do it because I had to do it by myself, bit by bit by bit. And I'm not technically proficient. So a lot of mistakes. My website is just simply www.chuckdransfield.com. Very easy to find.
And if they want to call you, do you have a number that they can call you, or all that information is available on the, say somebody wants
all the information is on there.
All available on your website.
It's all on there. Yes, everything you need to know. My phone number, address.
I'm so glad you could come and speak to us.
Oh, I'm so glad too. I love you.
I just want to say right back that you have also helped me quite a bit. You don't charge very much money. When I went through a very difficult divorce, and I was starting off, and I really needed a break. And you have really helped me a lot. Just as you could, as an MD's physician, you could be making a lot. Assistant, you could make more money, but you've been really generous with your time. So I'm grateful.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's my heartfelt pleasure, because I so believe in what you do. You know, you are the real deal. All I have to do is just be honest with your patients when I talk to them, When they ask me questions about you, I just say it like it is. I tell people Whimsy comes from a place of love. She is going to really
Except when I
listen
have
to
my
you with
PTSD
all of her heart.
panic attacks. Right,
Well,
sweetie. Well, thank you
me
so
too.
much. And
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
promise you're going to come back.
Of course I will.
All right.
Of course I will.
Thank
Well,
you
I
so
could.
much.
I love you, Whimsy. You're
Oh,
one of the
that's
dearest people in my life. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
okay. Well, thanks again. Thank you.
Okay.